It is now my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker this morning, SaLisa Berrien. SaLisa Berrien is founder and CEO of CIO Energy, following a long and diverse career in the energy space, working for organizations such as PPL, PECO Energy, and Con Edison. She and COI Energy practice the platinum rule: do unto your customer as you would have them do unto you. SaLisa is the founder and chair of Strive, Inc., a charitable organization focused on STEM leadership development and training for students in 3rd through 12th grades. In 2013, she established COI Ladder Institute to focus on developing leadership and empowerment services to millennials and women. SaLisa has also established several scholarship funds for high school and college students. She holds a degree in mechanical engineering from the University of Pittsburgh and an executive MBA from St. Joseph's University. She's been a guest speaker at various conferences and events, including SXSW, NSBE, the University of Pittsburgh, Florida's Women in Energy Leadership Forum, and Morgan Stanley Sustainable Future Summit. One of SaLisa's core values is philanthropy. I am stuttering this morning, I'm so sorry. She believes that to whom much is given, much is required. Her mission in life is to positively impact the space she occupies by leaving it better off than when she found it. Please join me in welcoming SaLisa Berrien to the stage.
Greek tragedy. Imagine your first day entering your senior year in your atomic physics class, and your professor tells you that you're a Greek tragedy waiting to happen. He then went on to talk about how people that look like you don't belong in his class. And whenever I rose my hand to ask a question or to answer, he wouldn't call on me. But he made it his business to make sure that I was never recognized. So much so that he failed me on every quiz and every test that I took. My reaction was initially introspective. I was like, what's wrong with me? What did I do to deserve this? Like, what's really going on? I typically am able to draw people to me, and I was unable to reach this professor. So quickly, I got into gear and recognized that I deserved a seat in that room. I deserved to take my final physics course at my alma mater and pass it. So I went to my mentor, Dr. Carl H. Lewis at the University of Pittsburgh, and I said, I don't know what's going on in this classroom. My first week, the professor tells me I'm a Greek tragedy waiting to happen, and he's failed me on every test and quiz. Now, my study group, which no one looks like me in my study group, we've had similar answers on the test. So I didn't understand how I failed it, but they passed. So my mentor says, SaLisa, don't worry about it. We'll take care of this. They had to elevate this to the provost's office to get an independent person to review all my tests and quizzes to see if, in fact, I failed every single one. It turns out I failed none. And the professor had to go back and change all those grades. I start off with this story because it's so important to understand the value that is placed in an educator. Each of you have a critical role to play, and you could speak life or death in a situation. So the young lady from Stanford that just gave her presentation, it really resonated with me because I'm that minority that they felt slipped through the cracks. But if I didn't have the opportunity to be a part of the Pitt Engineering Impact Program that Dr. Carl Lewis founded, I wouldn't have had the confidence to go to someone and say, what should I do? I can't reach this professor. And he's treating me really bad, and he's calling me a Greek tragedy. I never had anyone say something like that to me. So the SaLisa Berrien that I am, I'm a traditional engineer. The mechanical engineer I am, I'm an introvert. And so I wouldn't have normally went and asked anyone to help me. I would have just accepted as that's my demise, and I would have failed the course, and it was my last semester before graduating with my engineering degree. But the Engineering Impact Program gave me that confidence. They told us that you belong here. They told us that you can accomplish anything if you put your mind to it. They told us it doesn't matter where you start, where you started. It just matters where you finish. They told us that they will give us all of the wraparound services that we needed to be successful. They didn't only tell us, they did it. They walked every step of the way with us, letting us know that we are valid, we earned a spot in the seats at the University of Pittsburgh, and we will achieve our goals as long as we keep our head on straight and stay focused. I call this my circle of influence. My circle of influence is what led me to where I am today. And it started with a leader that had the audacity to start a minority engineering program at the University of Pittsburgh because he recognized there wasn't enough of us there. And I remember when I first showed up on the campus, and literally through my 4 years of college, I didn't like him. I felt he was too hard. He came from Barbados, so I didn't think he understood the African-American experience. And it was like, you could do this, you do that, no excuses. I'm like, who is this dude? Like, why is he talking to us like that? He doesn't know my story. And what I recognized is he was on a mission. And his mission was to ensure that he produced successful, underrepresented minorities and all other engineers. And he did that. So he didn't care that we didn't like him. I didn't know that was a part of the whole MO because I'm like, who is this dude? And the day I graduated with my mechanical engineering degree in 4 years, I was the first person that gave the minority engineering program a plaque to award them because they saw something in me I didn't see in myself. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm from Allentown, Pennsylvania. The university did not recruit in Allentown, Pennsylvania. I was hijacked by the Me Too movement at the end of my 8th grade year, before there was even the term Me Too. That resulted in me having a child in 9th grade. I graduated from high school on time with honor roll. I went to the University of Pittsburgh and got into a foundational program, not like Impact, it was Impact, that gave me what I needed. I'm gonna keep referencing back to the young lady from Stanford, because when she talks about where you start and the confidence that women and African American women have, everyone had a head start on me. I didn't come from a family that anyone went to college. I'm the first college graduate. 5 children in my family. I'm the 4th child, the first one to graduate from high school. The odds were all against me. I wasn't supposed to, number one, graduate from high school because I had a baby in 9th grade. So I sure enough wasn't supposed to graduate from high school on time with honors, taking a baby through high school with me. And then to go on to one of the top universities, giving a shout out to my University of Pittsburgh, with a mechanical engineering program, 5 hours away from home with my baby. and I graduate in 4 years, I gotta tell you, the circle of influence means a whole lot. It started from a teacher when I was in 11th grade, noticing me after school because I chose to stay after school until as long as I could, and then go to the daycare and pick up my daughter. And one day, she just happened to say, it was 30 minutes of her time, what do you want to be when you get older? And I said, I want to be an attorney or a radio broadcaster. I wanted to be able to use my voice to help people like me. And she said, SaLisa, there's enough attorneys in the world. She's like, but you're good at math and science. Why don't you be an engineer? I said, I don't want to work on cars, and I don't want to fix trains. So I don't want to be an engineer. That's like not cool. And she says, that's not what engineers do. Mind you, this is 11th grade. And she says, let me tell you what engineers do. They solve problems. I didn't understand that concept. And so she went on to say, I'm going to get you enrolled in a shadowing program so you can shadow the city engineer. Circle of influence. People that believe in you more than you believe in yourself. She didn't only say what an engineer was, she showed me what an engineer was. So I ended up shadowing the city engineer, city of Allentown. Got to understand civil engineering. The following year, the following summer, before I went to college, they allowed me to intern as an engineer for the city, doing street light design and things like that. But she didn't stop there. She looked at and said, there's a bioengineering course being taught at Lehigh University. It's a summer program for gifted students. You should go. Okay, so end of 8th grade, I become pregnant. I don't know what's happening to me. I totally go off the grid. My grades dramatically dropped from being an honors student in middle school to like almost failing in 9th grade. 10th grade, I was picking it up a little bit, but not so much. I was still mediocre. So by 11th grade, for her to say, you're gonna go into a gifted program at Lehigh University, imposter syndrome, I don't qualify, right? I get in. I'm at Lehigh University with the brightest minds from across the world that came in for this bioengineering program for 6 weeks. And I successfully graduate from that. And that opened up my whole world of what engineering was all about. I end up going on and I applied to the University of Pittsburgh. I get in. I said, I gotta get as far away from home as possible because I didn't have people in my circle there that believed in me other than that teacher. So let me go somewhere far. And people are like, how are you gonna do that? You have a baby. I was like, I gotta figure it out. I show up to the university campus with this 3-year-old at the time, and I remember Dr. Lewis's face. Whoa, no one knew I had a child. They were like, where is she going with this baby? I don't have any other option. I have to bring my baby with me. It's my baby. And Dr. Lewis is like, no, you can't do that. So my dad is there trying to figure out, like, what am I going to do? And he's like, that baby has to go home. So I had to figure out something in the 11th hour what I was going to do with the baby because they were like, you're staying in a dorm. Baby can't stay there. That shows you how clueless I was, right? Like, I'm this kid. I really didn't understand what was going on. And it got me to a level to say, I got to make a sacrifice. And the one thing Dr. Lewis says, if you sacrifice now, your daughter will be set up for the rest of her life. I didn't understand how I sacrificed without my daughter there because from the time I had her, I had to take care of her. No one helped me. My mom told me, if you have this baby, you got to take care of it by yourself. So in 9th grade, I had to be a parent. I had to do all the things that parents did, plus show up to school every day and try to focus on academics. So yes, I started behind. And I didn't have a head start. But what Dr. Lewis taught us was changing your mindset. And when you change your mindset, you change your trajectory. And him drilling in, you can be anything you want to be, made me realize, wow, I can. So when I look at business and how I've applied engineering to business, I've gone in there with the mindset that you can solve anything. If there's a problem, it can be solved. So out of college, I went and I worked for PPL, which is an electric utility investor-owned utility in their marketing and sales organization. We didn't have really marketing and sales. It was regulation, a monopoly. We didn't have customers. They were ratepayers, but we were making believe we had that, right? So I was this marketing engineer, and my responsibility was to go into industrial and commercial operations, look at their processes, make recommendations on how they can eliminate bottlenecks, and improve their bottom line. So here's this little girl from the University of Pittsburgh with my mechanical engineering degree, and I'm walking into all this big business trying to tell them how to solve their problems. And I was faced with a lot of resistance. Over the phone, people thought, oh, wow, this girl is really sharp. And then when I got there in person, they took a step back because they didn't know I was black. So the one guy over the phone was saying, hey, are you blonde? And I'm like, no. He's like, are you a brunette? I'm like, yes, yes. He's like, so you have brown eyes? I'm like, yes, I do. So when I showed up in his office to be that person to solve his problems, first he was embarrassed because he didn't think I was black. But then he was like, I don't think she can really solve my problems. I went on to be very successful at PP&L. I sold the first electric vehicle in the Northeast region. It was called the G-Van, if anyone remembers that. It only went 60 miles, and then you had to plug it in. But I sold the first one there. I received excellence awards and customer satisfaction because I understood that even though people didn't believe that I deserved the right to be there, I gave them that respect that they deserved. And my customers began to really receive me and recognize that, whoa, she can solve these problems. And not only that, she's honest. If she can't solve something, she'll tell you. And she, by the way, would offer a solution that might have been her competitors, but she would tell them the honest truth. So over my career, I had customers, wherever I went, they would follow me, except under the regulation piece. So if you're a utility, it's a monopoly, right? So this is when I fast forward into the deregulated markets, and customers are like, SaLisa's an honest person. She typically solves my problems. If she can't, she will tell me where I can go to get that solution. And so with that really helped me on my corporate side when I worked in big companies. So we'll fast forward to 2006. I went to my first startup. And in that startup, it was totally amazing. I don't know how many people have worked in a startup, but going from big corporate into a startup, and it was Boston clean tech company. And I found like this new world. It was like, wow, you have this blank canvas and you can paint it any color you want. You wear 10,000 hats. It really fit me being an engineer because I could just like solve all these problems, and I did that. I helped lead my company, it was a smart grid company, to being the #1 demand response company in the world. And it was this little girl from a public-private university. Most of my colleagues came from the Ivies. So when you research a lot of the startups, it's like you're focused on getting Ivies, if you get the Ivies, you're really going to be successful. My colleagues could not compare to me. And not boasting, just kind of just telling what the facts were, they were like, how is she getting all these customers? How is she growing this marketplace? So the president of the company decided to take me to Europe to grow the market in Europe as well because of the work that I did in the United States. I gotta tell you that all of that came with my engineering degree. My engineering degree taught me that you can solve anything. And so when I got out into the startup space, it was a little bit different from what I was used to in the corporate world, but what I found was there were problems to be solved, and you figure out how to solve them. People were like sales. I started interacting with traditional salespeople. As an engineer, we're not salespeople, we solve problems. So if we go in there with that mindset, we know that the customer typically is gonna sign on to what you're doing because you're not trying to sell them a widget, you're trying to give a solution to what their problem is. And so what my colleagues didn't know that came from the Ivies, because they came out and they had the Ivy degree, and I love my Ivies, guys, I totally love my Ivies. But what they didn't know is that it wasn't about selling that widget. It was about developing a relationship. And you develop that relationship and you understand who your customer is first before you try to sell something. So my leadership says, SaLisa, our business model is to sell singles, doubles, and triples. Once in a while, a home run. But why do you keep going after only home runs? That's not our business model. You have to stop doing that. It's like, whoa, I thought that was a good thing. Well, the reason why it wasn't a good thing is because it took longer to develop those home runs. So you had to cultivate relationships over a longer period of time. So what I ended up doing, I did what he told me. He told me to do the singles, doubles, and triples. I did that, but I still on the side, I continue to cultivate those relationships. After my first year at the company, I exceeded my annual goal in August. The following year, I exceeded my annual goal the first week in April. People wanted to know what was SaLisa doing and what was different. And as an engineer, I gotta tell you, we all have that in us. We know how to solve problems, and how we connect business to engineering is make sure you put your customer first. If you put your customer first and you focus on delighting them at every level of engagement, you're always gonna win. So keep them at the center. And so when I started COI Energy 3 years ago, that was my total focus. I saw there was a mismatch. Electric utilities were looking to solve a problem with the grid. And then one of their biggest challenges was they could not see what was behind the meter. So they couldn't see what was inside businesses, what kind of equipment they were adding on. And businesses, they didn't have transparency to actually understand what the value of their assets behind the meter were. So I was like, hey, let's start an energy on demand marketplace where businesses and utilities can buy, sell, trade, and gift energy anytime and anywhere. People are like, oh, how'd you come up with that? Well, I worked at a utility, I recognized what their problem was, and I worked on the smart grid side, and I noticed what was happening with the business customers, where they were selling their assets back, their flexibility in order to support the electric grid, but they weren't getting the full value of that. So third parties were taking 50% of their revenue, and I was like, oh, no, we can do this. You can keep all your revenue. You're doing all the work. And so it was a business model that's totally different and kind of changed the game. And here we are today with COI Energy being the first energy on demand marketplace where Morgan Stanley invested in my company, where SAP is one of my strategic partners, and I am the only startup that they've partnered with on a non-wires alternative. So what I say to everyone here is one size doesn't fit all. When you have a person show up in your classroom and they look a little bit different. They have a 3-year-old child. They had an average GPA, because the honors, even when you look at the last 2 years I got honor roll, those other 2 years it still brought me to an average GPA. I had low SAT scores, and I didn't have a network, because your network is really what gives you that exposure. Would you call that person a Greek tragedy? Or would you take on the challenge to ensure that she had the necessary tools in order to be successful. We have to rethink our paradigm. We have to rethink what engineering is all about. We got to rethink the type of people, because we know the world is changing, and they need all of us. All of us contribute to the problem. So I say, the future of engineering is in your hands. My ask to everyone here today is that you rethink the future of engineering. Help your students build a network. And if you have mentors, if you're a mentor or a coach or a sponsor, add another one, add another mentee to your portfolio. Help someone, because we all need help. And as you can see, the statistics are showing venture capital, so I'm raising capital for my company right now. So I'm living in New York, but I'm headquartered here in Tampa. So people are like, oh, you just flew in from New York. Yeah, that's, I'm living there right now. But if you look at the statistics, 2% of venture capital goes to women-led companies. 0.0006 go to black female-led company. Yes, I said 0.0006. And so if you can be a mentor, if you can be a coach, if you can be a sponsor, you will increase the circle of influence for these women, for these men, for boys and girls, and we can all imagine the effect that that will have as we charge up for the next 125 years of ASEE. Have the audacity to make a difference. Thank you.